This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is the lovely and talented James MENNIE over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, today heard François Legault talking about the language, the census data that came out from StatsCan yesterday. It really, there's going to be nothing surprising, I think, other than using the same words that we've heard a million times before, like Simon Jollet, the language is in peril. But now, maybe the only change here is this, the idea that immigration is now going to be the key. We know Quebec has been trying to get immigration away from the feds for the longest time. Does this add a little more impetus to their efforts?
Well, you have to remember, though, and you're quite right. Your prediction, I think, is spot on. I think now we're going to be focusing, as this CAT government likes to do, on immigration, on the potential threat it poses to Quebec's identity, even though, I don't know if you remember this, when it was the first, I can't remember whether it was the first or the 15th language, Quebec in decline scare, Quebec identity about to disappear scare. François Legault was talking about Bill 96, and he said, well, part of the problem, and quite rightly, is that the population is not growing. And he, if I remember correctly, he said it in French, and I think my translation of that, he says, if Quebecers have anyone to blame, it's themselves, which to a certain extent seems quite logical. If you want to maintain the fact that French is being spoken and not being reduced, I hate to put it this way, but you got to create little francophones. The fact is, with Quebec wanting to filch all the power for immigration, they want to target specifically francophones to keep those numbers up. But once again, I would bet you folding money that some other criteria, as in will these immigrants be bringing something to the economy? Will they be bringing some advantage other than speaking French? I don't think those questions will be answered. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is they've got to find another vocabulary for this debate, because you can't avoid using the words minuscule, minimal, erosion indeed, but slight erosion of the use of French in Quebec. It is not a crisis. It is a continuing trend, but it is hardly a downward spiral. It is, the slightest angle downward, and is a reflection of the reality of the world. And whether or not François Legault wants to admit it, whether or not his advisors, who are columnists at the Journal de Montréal, want to admit it, the world is speaking English more and more. As I said yesterday, they're speaking American. You call it what you will. This is a fact. It doesn't mean that Quebec is in danger so much that Quebec is being swept up in the reality of a global economy, of a global society. So, and François Legault knows he's not stupid, but he also understands he's got to play to a base that is buying into his metaphorical stockade that he's built to put la nation québécoise to keep it safe and out of harm's way from all these these immigrants and other influences that could possibly pollute the Quebec identity. So he's going to be walking a pretty fine line here. On the other hand, he also knows that language remains the third rail in Quebec politics, and he will not get a rough ride, certainly from the Quebec Liberals. He won't get a rough ride from Quebec Solidaire, and he certainly won't get a rough ride from the PQ. And as for the other parties, Canadian Party of Quebec, Bloc Montreal, yeah, he'll get a rough ride from them. But listen, apart from us, I'm certain the Francophone press will ignore it completely. So he seems to be okay with that. But as I say, it is going to be a bit of a juggling act. Because don't forget, a good, les bons Québécois de souche who own businesses are screaming at this government to increase immigration levels, something the government absolutely refuses to do.
I want to just, I guess, point out that this argument, or this discussion, if we're going to call it that, between the province and the feds over immigration, as I said off the top, has been going on forever. Mm-hmm. You kind of wonder at some point why the feds won't simply say, okay, go ahead. You want more francophones because the province will point to the fact that this survey shows that the problem here is in immigration to some degree. Why not simply let them have it? What's the holdup here?
Well, first of all, it's ingrained in any level of government not to give up any kind of jurisdiction. The fact that Quebec has its own immigration ministry, its provincial immigration ministry, was a huge get for the government of the day, because implicit in all of these things is, well, back then it was, well, if we don't give them what they want, they'll separate. Now, the 2.0 version of that is, if we don't give them what they want, we may lose seats in Quebec. That's all that this is about. There's no logic involved. I understand the importance of maintaining Quebec's character, of maintaining the reality that it is a Francophone majority, and it would like to remain that way. I understand all of that. Mm-hmm. But once again, the methods that are being used have nothing to do with protecting that, if you will,
agreed.
Heritage. It's got everything to do with, in fact, it's a diversion. It's saying, c'est les Anglais, c'est les autres, c'est les immigrants, là. No, that's not what you need to be protected from.
But aren't we smarter? Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, aren't we smarter than this? Like, this is what's stunning me. I don't understand that there's no accountability here. And, I'm looking at your other headline here about back to school right now and what we're dealing with. This government has blown so many things. We don't have teachers. We don't have nurses. We don't even have school buses. We don't have the damn air filters that we were supposed to have. Oh, but we will have them, only how many years late? How come nothing sticks to them?
Because the dirty little not-so-secret is that every assignment and line of editor in Quebec is going to look at that story, and they'll look at any language story and say language leads.
Yeah.
And that's the
truth. That's what it is.
That is absolutely the truth.
Reality, you betcha. I used to have a hand in building those realities on a daily basis for like 6 years at the Montreal Gazette, and I assure you, you will look at what's out there, and nobody's hiding what's out there. I mean, we're talking about the back-to-school thing that I suggested we talk about. All of that is from coverage today. But the fact is, if you want eyeballs, if you want ears, if you want, readers, go with what is going to whip things up. And right now, language is the most reliable whipper-upper there is.
Jim, last question before we run out of time. So Pierre Fitzgibbon today, and I'm sure he's going to be dragged over the coals for this to some degree. Rouyn-Noranda, we have a doctor on yesterday talking about how serious the conditions are there. People, getting sick, low birth weight children. And today, and his comment yesterday is, personne va mourir. No one's going to die. Big deal.
Die. Calm down.
I don't get it.
C'est pas la fin du monde. Hey, listen, I agree with you, but here's the reality. In the past 4 years, Pierre Fitzgibbon has proved over and over again, like if there was ever an asteroid about to hit the planet Earth, stand behind Pierre Fitzgibbon. Okay?
Well said.
And you're good to go.
Can we add Roberge to that list, too? Because I feel like this guy, again...
Yeah, but you know what? Pierre Fitzgibbon seems to revel in it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a great point about Pierre Fitzgibbon.
To say something like that, no one's going to die.
James MENNIE at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adama.